Hello, boys and girls. We are on to Module 5. Module 4, Lesson 11, Factoring Expressions. So what we will be doing here, let me move this, cancel that, let me move this out of the way. Hold on. We are going to be using the greatest common factor and the distributive property to write equivalent expressions. So yesterday, when we did lesson 10, we expanded the multiplication when we had a coefficient and a variable. And so today we might need to do that, and then we will find the greatest common factor and write an equivalent expression using the distributive property. So here we have 3f plus 3g. Now, if I write that in expanded, like we did yesterday, I would write 3 times, my computer just moved, times f plus 3 times g. Now, to find the greatest common factor, we can see they both have a factor of 3. F is not a common factor, g is not a common factor, but 3 is the greatest common factor. So I'm going to put that here. Now, where did it go? Sorry about that. Rewriting the expression using the greatest common factor, I am going to put the 3 on the outside. Sorry, I just got rid of my keyboard, so that made it mess up. I will put the 3 here and then put a parenthesis. So I'm going to be doing 3 times, and I'm going to look up here at what's left. I'm going to cross out the 3 because that represents this. I'm going to cross out this 3 because that factor is here. So let's look at what is left. Out of the 3f, I have an f. I have my plus, and the 3g, I have g. So we have 3f plus 3g. Then we took out the greatest common factor of 3. Put that here. We have 3 times f plus g. And that is an equivalent expression using the greatest common factor. Let's go to the next slide. Here we have 6x plus 9y. We need to find the greatest common factor. So we have 6x plus 9y. So if we want to factor them out first, we did factor them the other day. Instead of writing 6x, I can do 2 times 3 times x plus 9y would be 3 times 3 times y. And let's look at the factors and see what they have in common and which one's the greatest. They both have 3. So again, our greatest common factor is 3. So rewriting the expression using the greatest common factor, we are going to put the 3, our factor 3 outside the parentheses, and then I am going to cross out that 3 because it's represented here as this factor. Cross out that 3, it is represented here as this factor. This 3 stays. 1 3 is here. That's one factor. Each of these terms has 2 factors. 2 times 3 is 6. 3 times 3 is 9. So we leave the other factor there. This is one of those factors. Now, 3 times what gives us 6x? Look what's left, 2x. 3 times 2x is 6x. Plus 3 times what gives us 9y? What's left? 3 times 3y gives us 9y. So the equivalent expression using the greatest common factor is 3 times 2x plus 3y. And I just want to show you. If you look at this, you would go 3 times 2x is 6y. 3 times 2x is 6x. And 3 times 3y is 9y. Now this one's a little bit different. We have 3c plus 11c. 3 and 11 are both prime. So if I wrote these in expanded form, and you will not always have to expand these, you will be looking at them and figuring out the greatest common factor without expanding them. I'm expanding them so that you really get what we're doing. What do both of these terms have in common? They both have c. So our greatest common factor is c. So now we're going to put the c outside the parentheses. And we're going to be multiplying c by what we have left. And what we have left is 3 plus 11. So remember, the letters, the variables represent an unknown number. X represents an unknown number. Y represents an unknown number. They're not just letters. They're not just members of the alphabet right now. They are representing numbers that can be replaced in there later. We don't know what they are. C represents a number. This represents 3 times a number plus 11 times that same number. So it's not just some random thing stuck in there. It does represent something. All right, here goes another one. Now this one also looks a little bit different. There's no variable on this side. This is called a constant. When it is a number without a variable, it's called a constant. So remember, each of these is a term, and this term has a coefficient times a variable, and this is just a constant. So we have to find the greatest common factor. So maybe we don't need to expand it. We have 24b plus 8. So what is the greatest common factor? Let's start with 8. We have 1 times 8. If you're not sure doing your factors, let's do it like we used to do. We have 1 times 8. We have 2 times 4. Those are our factors of 8. Well, our factors of 24, we have 1 times 24. We have 2 times 12. We have 3 times 8. And we have 4 times 6. So the greatest common factor that they both have in common is 8. So we are going to pull out the 8 outside of the parentheses, and then we need to think 8, I'm going to just rewrite it up here. So it's right above it. 8 times what gives us 24b? 8 times 3b plus, you can never forget this because there always needs to be 2 within this parenthesis unless you have more. And now, so we have 8 times 3b equals 24b. 8 times what gives us 8? 8 times 1. It's very important that that 1 is there. If you just thought having the 8 here was fine, it would be wrong because then you would just have 8 and 3b in parentheses, and that would not be an equivalent expression. So there is a 1 in the parentheses to show that 8, I've been doing that recently. Look, looks like a little heart there. Let me fix this. To show that 8 times 1 equals 8. You need to show that term in the multiplication. So these are the exercises you will be doing in your book. And I put in here, did you know that the distributive property is the most commonly used property in math? And we talked about this in class, how it is used in many, many aspects of everybody's lives. And we even talked about how students use it when you play Minecraft and you're making a pickaxe and you're using a certain number of sticks and a certain number of blocks, and how sticks and blocks aren't the same. So you can't add them together. But if you need to make a pickaxe, you need to, or multiple pickaxe, you need to know how many of each thing you need. And you do that using the distributive property. You just don't really realize it. Okay, so I'm just going to do a couple here. So let's see. We have 7x plus 7y. They're both 7s, so 7 is our greatest common factor. And 7 times x gives us 7x, plus 7 times y gives us 7y. We have 15g and 20h. So the greatest common factor, start with the lower one, 15. We have 1 and 15, and we have 3 and 5. Which one of those is also a factor of 20? 5. So we will put 5 as the factor outside the parentheses. 5 times what gives us 15g? 5 times 3g. Look at that. 5 times 3 is 15, and then you have your g. Now we need to add that. Plus 5 times what gives us 20h? 5 times 4h will give us 20h. So when you look at this now, you have 5 times 3g gives you 15g, and 5 times 4h gives you 20h. Okay, I'm sure you're with me and I'm sure you're doing great. Now we have 18 and 42. So let's think of 18 first. We have 1 and 18. We have 2 and 9. And we have 3 and 6. So which one of those is also a factor of 42? If you said 6, you are correct. 6 is the greatest common factor of 18 and 42. So let's put 6 outside our parentheses as our factor there. And you would multiply 6 times 3 to get 18. So we have 3m plus 6 times 7 is 42. So you have 7n. Now we have 30a and 39b. Well, 30, we have a lot. We have 1 and 10. We have 2 and 15. I mean, not 1 and 10, sorry. 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, and 5 and 6. Now you can use your divisibility rules for 39 because it's not a basic fact. 3 plus 9 is 12. So 39 is divisible by 3 because 12 is divisible by 3. So I'm going to use 3. I'm pretty confident that's their greatest common factor. 3 times 10a will give me 30a plus 3 times 13b will give me 39b. Now, if we look at letter E here, once again, we have the common factor is the variable, the unknown number. So the common factor of F will go outside the parentheses, and then we have 11 times F, so 11 would go there, plus 15 would go here. Let me fix that plus sign because you don't want it to look like a multiplication sign. Even though, remember, when we are doing our algebra, we are going to be using the dot for multiplication or putting things right next to each other for multiplication. Again, here we have the H as the common factor, and 18 and 13 don't have any common factors. 13 is prime, and this one up here also 11 was prime, because we could have a greatest common factor that is a coefficient and a variable, but in this case, it's not. So we have the H, and then we have 18 plus 13 in parentheses. All right, let's look at this one. We only have one variable here, so it won't be the variable. And we have 55 and 11. And I know most of you are pretty good with your 11s facts. And you know when there's a double number here in 11, your greatest common factor is 11. 11 times 5m will give us 55m, plus 11 times what gives us 11? 11 times 1. There's another one with that 1 that is essential, and you must put it there. Okay, our last one here. Again, only one variable, so we're going to look at 7 and 56. Well, 7 is a prime number, so I'm pretty confident that 7 is our greatest common factor. So 7 is outside of our parentheses. 7 times 1 gives me 7, plus 7 times 8y will give me 56y. So hopefully this helped those of you who were confused and those of you who were absent. I hope that this helped you understand. If you have any more difficulties with it, please let me know. You can email me and I will give you extra help with it next week. All right, great job.